Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? is Monday, May 13th, 2024, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Houston Independent School District Superintendent and the state-appointed Board of Education trustees, they approved a measure to outsource dozens of district staff in teaching positions, also firing principals beginning for the 2024 school year. This has rankled numerous parents as well as elected officials. We'll talk to two state representatives, one who used to serve on the school board, about the drama in Houston, the largest school district in the state and one of the largest in America, and how this is absolutely a Republican strategy to destroy public education in Texas. As the second anniversary of when a self-described white supremacist killed 10 black people in Buffalo, New York approaches, most recent FBI data shows that hate crimes are on the rise. The largest, no, not anti-Semitism, African Americans. We'll talk about this here with a professor of criminal justice. Also, some folks are not happy with Vice President Kamala Harris's comments today about breaking barriers. Oh, because she got a little colorful. I was good with it. It's been 5 years since 6 Louisiana state troopers viciously beat Ronald Greene to death. His mother, Mona Hart, will be with us to update us on her fight for justice for her son. Also, it's National Women's Health Week. In our Fit, Live, Win segment, and organizations is expanding its services to meet the post-Roe v. Wade needs, relaunching its Birth Justice Care Fund. Plus, new poll out. New York Times Siena has a lot of progressives upset. Why? The poll is a joke. I'll explain. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Well, folks, there's nothing like being a history-making vice president. That's who Kamala Harris is. Not only is she the first black vice president, she's also the first Asian American vice president, also was the first female vice president. She attended the annual Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies Legislative Leadership Summit. During a forum moderated, Harris discussed what it means to break barriers and how it's not always a hurtless process.
Breaking barriers does not mean you start on one side of the barrier and you end up on the other side. There's breaking involved. And when you break things, you get cut. And you may bleed. And it is worth it every time. Every time. And so too, especially the young people here, I say to you, when you walk in those rooms, being the only one that looks like you, the only one with your background, you walk in those rooms, chin up, shoulders back. Be it a meeting room, a boardroom, a courtroom, a hearing room. You walk in those rooms knowing that we are all in that room with you, applauding you on, and expecting certain things from you, including that you will not be silent in those rooms. And that we expect that from you because we also expect that you will internalize and know we're there with you. And so your voice can be strong. It is, as Alicia said, my mother would say to me, don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. Don't ever carry as a personal burden your capacity to do whatever you dream and aspire to do based on other people's limited ability to see who can do what. This is part of what's involved, is that we have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open, sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
We're gonna make t-shirts with that saying, kick the fucking door down.
Yo, that works for me. I mean, here's the reality. If there's any person, all these folks on the right, I don't want to hear none of y'all mouths. Because y'all the ones supporting a cussing, pathetic, shameful, despicable individual who uses coarse language all the time. And you know what? Here's what this reminds me of. I remember years ago, I was watching Nightline. I remember Mom was baking a cake for a cake business, and I was in our kitchen, and Nightline was on. And there was a conversation, and it was Ted Koppel, Ice-T, Dr. Alvin Toussaint. And Ted Koppel began to ask Ice-T, you know, about language in rap music. And Ice-T said, Ted, he said, you know what, black folks are just different. And sometimes he said, black people cuss for emphasis. He said, like, for instance, somebody white might would say, Johnny, put down that knife. He said, somebody black will say, Johnny, put down that goddamn knife. He said, Ted, there's a difference. And so then Ted Koppel turns to Alvin Toussaint, and he goes, Dr. Toussaint, your thoughts. And Toussaint, you know, he was an advisor to the Cosby Show, and he's Harvard, all this sort of stuff. He goes, Ted, Ice-T got a point. So sometimes you got to use colorful language to get folk attention. My pal, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president, emeritus, author out of D.C. She joins us right now. Derek Jackson, state representative out of Georgia, District 68. Joins us from Atlanta. Former Georgia state representative Renita Shannon out of Atlanta joins us right now. Probably the most cussingest person on this panel is probably, she probably cussed more than me, is Julianne. So, I mean, but she's right, and frankly, This is the Vice President Kamala Harris I want to see more of. I want to see that sister who cuts right to the chase. I said this last week, Julianne, and I'm gonna keep saying this here because Biden is not out there. We know he's 82. They need to have her constantly doing discussions on the road, leading rallies, you name it, letting her carry this ticket flat out.
Well, I fully agree with you about her having more visibility. Certainly in the past couple weeks, maybe the past months, she has. But for the longest time, they were keeping her under wraps, and I think to the detriment of the ticket. I just laughed when all she said was F. I mean, you know, I try not to cuss on the air much, but, you know, I cuss just about every place else. And I would have said the MF door if it was me, you know. But like Alvin Toussaint, we have different cultures. And a lot of people don't want to deal with it. They want to talk about profanity. And to me, what is profane is the state of our politics. What is profane is a woman not having the right to choose. What is profane is some of the things we're going to talk about on this program today. From teacher firing to shoot black people, that's profanity. And if somebody needs to use colorful language and say, stop this MF shit, and I did say shit, stop it. That's what needs to happen. I don't think they get it. And, you know, sometimes I'll tell you a story offline with ignorant when I cussed this white man out and then I had to go to court for something else. And he sat on the stand and cried because he said, she kept calling me a and he couldn't say it. He said, He couldn't get it out. And the judge said, well, if you can't tell me what she said, I can't judge. It was a brother. He knew what I said. But this was years ago. But the bottom line is, some of this is clutching pearls. This is clutching your pearls. Oh, my God, she used the F word. Well, you've been effing black people since we've been here. That's all I have to say.
The thing here, Renita, look, we're in the throes of a campaign, and to her detriment, the first 18 months her Vice President Harris and President Biden really could not travel around the country because of COVID, all the different precautions. Also, folk have to remember, the first couple of years, she had to stay near D.C. because they needed her vote to break filibusters in the United States Senate. She's actually broken the record for the most tie votes cast. I just fundamentally believe that there has to be an even more aggressive strategy of having her out there talking to people, interacting with people, and not just in these sit-down forums. The campaign should be actually putting together outdoor rallies, and not just scripting her the way they are. I remember when she spoke in Buffalo, and y'all, find those comments, and she was not supposed to speak at the funeral of the folks in Buffalo. We're gonna play that around when we talk about the hate crimes. She was not supposed to speak. Those were off-the-cuff remarks. I dare say that and the comments that she made at the funeral of the brother who was killed by the Memphis police were two of the best moments because they were not so heavily scripted. I just think too often they are frankly putting a straitjacket, handcuffs, and duct tape around the vice president. Hey, guess what? You lose in November, it doesn't matter. Right now, you got to go ahead and let loose and let it all hang out.
They are putting too much of the handcuffs around her, and a lot of it has to do with gender. Similar to what Dr. Malveaux was saying, you know, there is a double standard where when a man, you know, cusses whether he's elected or in the case of the former president, Trump, how he practically campaigned on being able to sexually assault women and figure out a way to get away with it. None of that was looked at as any sort of problem. And so you see that over and over again, that when men are passionate when they speak and when they cuss or whatever it is that they do, they generally get called a maverick and showing additional leadership. But when women show that they are real people too, then that is an issue. And I think that that's a lot of what those who are complaining about. It's just a double standard. I think that this helps her. I hope that she does not come out with some big apology after. She's just showing that she's a real person. And while we all try to, and she does the same thing too, while we all try to, for the most part, not use expletives in our daily work. For example, you know, I don't speak the way that I speak on your show, Roland, that I would speak, you know, when I'm not doing your show, because I imagine that kids are listening and it might be family time or whatever. At the end of the day, the vice president is a human being, and we all know that she's also an adult, and so she does cuss. And so to me, it seems like a lot of the criticism that she would be receiving around this is largely because she is a woman, additionally, because she is a Black woman. And this is what the campaign really needs to see, because for so long, Biden and Kamala have gotten, dinged for not being human, dinged for being too, people would ask things like, are they even alive? Things like that. So now when she shows you that she's human, now it's a problem. I just think it's a double standard, and I hope that she doesn't think another second about having used that word.
And look, you do have that the double standard that's going on there, Derek, but also it's being real and cutting to the chase. Again, we're in a moment here where you got to be as real and profound as you possibly can in reaching people. And I just think having those real honest conversations sometimes call for you to say what you got to say.
You know, Roland, one of the things that I'm often reminded that we got to stop saying enough is enough, because we've been saying enough is enough for a very long time. We got to make them feel uncomfortable. And those who feel uncomfortable, well, then they're just going to have to do as we have done for centuries. We've always felt uncomfortable. We felt uncomfortable at the workplace. We felt uncomfortable in the political arena. We felt uncomfortable in the school system. And so now when we start to demonstrate that we're authentic and we're human and we have feelings, then it's okay for them to feel uncomfortable. We can really, bring this down to 2 points. And I appreciate what my good friend and my colleague, Representative Shannon, stated. It is a double standard. And so now we just have to remove the handcuffs on Vice President Kamala Harris and let her demonstrate that she's a human being. She's skillful. She knows when to turn the switch on and off. And it's okay to make folks feel uncomfortable. I'm okay with that, because the use of saying enough is enough is more than enough. I'm exhausted.
Yep,
and so we just got to drop it and meet them where they are.
Especially when we're dealing with lying fool every single day on the Republican side. Got to go to break. We come back. Folks, we're going to talk about what's happening in Houston with the school district there. Massive cuts taking place there. And somebody has to say it. Latinos in Houston, y'all going to have to own what's actually happening there. I'm going to explain when we come back. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, are you trying to figure out how to earn more revenue in your business during these volatile times? Learn how to tap into the largest marketplace in the world through government contracting. Our next guest, Akia Hardnett, will be sharing how you can get wealthy through government contracting.
We've got a young lady, government assistance to government contracts. She literally was on government assistance when she came to us, and in less than a year, she has been winning multiple government contracts, and it has changed the trajectory of her family.
That's right here, only on Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard with Sammy Roman. I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, massive drama taking place in Houston to close a $450 million budget shortfall. Mike Miles, who is the state-appointed superintendent, has issued a wide variety of cuts. Not only are they cutting staff positions, they're cutting teaching positions. They're also firing and transferring, forcing the resignation of award-winning principals as well. Now, the state-appointed superintendent and the school board, they replaced the elected school board and the superintendent who was there. So they had this board of managers. And so they unanimously approved a measure allowing the district to cut dozens of staff and teaching positions. They also are getting rid of janitors and telling them they can actually reapply, but without benefits, sick days, and things along those lines. They're calling this a reduction in force that will take place before the 2024-2025 school year. Now, this has caused massive anger in Houston. Today, principals at several schools, parents at several schools were protesting as a result of these various cuts. Joining us right now is the Texas State Representative Jarvis Johnson. Also joining us is State Representative Jolanda Jones, a former school board member in Houston. Glad to have both of you here. I'm going to start with you first, Representative Johnson, because when I look at the protests, I saw the stories over the weekend. You had individuals who were the teachers of the year, middle school, high school. Miles goes and is forcing them to resign, and then they tried to cite these test scores. Well, then it came back, no, that's not really why they're getting released. We've seen massive numbers of teachers leaving the district. Now you got teacher shortage. You got principal shortage. What in the hell is going on? This feels like a complete decimation of the largest school district in Texas and one of the largest in the country.
Well, you know exactly what this is. This is a Greg Abbott play for his voucher scheme to try to get vouchers in place to destroy public education, only to come back to say, well, see, this is what's wrong with education. Now you need to have these vouchers in place. He is completely destroying HISD, which was a democratically led, voted on board to then put in this appointed board of nothing but mostly Republicans. And so this is all by design to destroy education system that is made up of primarily Black and Hispanic students, just to simply destroy education. When you destroy the system by which teachers teach, you destroy the environment by which children can learn. If that's a hostile environment, then you don't expect children to learn. And then he's using Matrix and he's using a scorecard that was antiquated or is the new system for the next couple of years and saying, they would have scored poorly if this was in place. But HISD was a B+ rated school district, and they came in and completely destroyed the education system as a ploy. And this is nothing more than Greg Abbott, because we've already defeated his voucher scam. And so we're going to continue to defeat his voucher scam, but he's going to continue to try to destroy education systems all across this state. This is just HISD the first. It's going to be other school districts that are democratically led the next time.
Jolanda, this is video here of a protest today. So let's be clear. These ain't just black parents who are ticked off. They done ticked off white parents, Latino parents. They're showing up at elementary schools, middle schools. These folks are not happy with these award-winning principals who literally are being forced to resign by Mike Miles, the superintendent.
Mike Miles is trying to do that at your alma mater, Roland Yates. But we can talk about that if you'd like to.
So wait a minute, he's trying to force it. Wait a minute, he's trying to force out the new principal?
Yeah, the one he put in. So because he got rid of the one before, Tiffany Guillory, who you know. He forced her out, so she was forced to retire. And then he put in somebody else who was a graduate of Yates as well, with a very prominent Yates family, Tiffany Square. And now he was talking about getting rid of her. She was on that list too. And he's done it. The problem is, when he's been firing the black and brown principals at the black and brown schools, nobody was paying attention. Then he screwed around and started messing with HSPVA and Meyerland and schools that are predominantly white. And now, when their parents protest, they're upset because poor parents, black parents, brown parents have already been protesting. No one paid attention to it. And I'll also say that Mike Miles is not certified as a superintendent. When we hired a superintendent, they had to be certified. And this rubber stamp board, there I call them the kangaroo court, his co-conspirators actually voted for there not to be certified teachers. And now they've gone and they fired not only janitors, they fired the people that maintain the buses. So we're going to have a bunch of raggedy buses crashing, and our kids are going to be going to school in filth. And they're union busting. They fired almost 1,200 people on Friday after business hours. They told us that the janitors and the support staff, come in, you have to come in, even on some people's off days, and said, oh, by the way, you being fired, but you can reapply, you can accrue vacation, and you don't get health benefits, and you're working hourly. And so that's what's going on. And I'm a former HISD trustee.
Jarvis,
so it is craziness. It is craziness. And I actually put out a statement on Friday night or Saturday morning related to this. The problem, and Mike Miles is also trying to do a bond while we're at it, Roland. He's going to put a bond on the November ballot because he wants to have more of a piggy bank. So the things that he's doing are unprecedented. HISD is the 7th largest school district in the United States. It's the largest school district in Texas, and it is the largest single city school district. So the other school districts in the country that are bigger than HISD are like counties, LA County, like that. So he's trying to destroy it because, as Representative Johnson said, we defeated his voucher scam. So he's trying to destroy HISD, and as HISD goes, the rest of the state will follow.
Jarvis, go ahead.
He did all of this firing towards the end of the school year, and he did it during Teacher Appreciation Week. Literally, he fired all of these teachers and principals during Teacher Appreciation Week. What kind of sick individual does that? And how demoralizing can that be when we're supposed to be celebrating teachers? We already know they're woefully underpaid. We had an opportunity with the $34 billion in surplus that we had in the state of Texas that we could have given teachers pay raise, but the governor and the Republicans refused to do so. And then on top of that, you go put this Mike Miles cat in place, and then he turns around and destroys the entire the excitement that teachers have every single day, and you go to them and say, you're fired during Teacher Appreciation Week. I mean,
and let me tell you something.
How sick is that?
I'll say this, Roland. He tried to fire principals before, but he got really bad backlash because, again, he had targeted some principals. And he said, oh, I'm not going to do that like right now. So he waits until the very end. He's implemented this new system called NES, which is shown to be a failure. And he actually was in Dallas ISD. They ran him away from Dallas ISD. And Greg Abbott and his cronies actually brought him in to do the same thing. Because when you're a superintendent that is chosen by an elected board, then you have to be there, right? They can't get rid of you because the elected board can only get rid of you. When TEA appoints board members, who most of whom are Republican, in fact, if they're not Republican, they show acting like they're Republican, and they're signing off to everything that Mike Miles does. Mike Miles actually spent almost $500,000 on a production where he got to act and talk about how great he was. And he said he was going to do a sequel to it. So that's $500,000 that's just thrown down for some play where he got to act. So he is literally treating HISD like a playground and not an educational place. Kids don't have libraries. He's using libraries as detention facilities for the kids. It's terrible. It is awful. And he's got people who are not certified teachers teaching in HISD. And then he wants to blame the principals and the teachers for failing the kids when he's the reason that they have the environment where they have uncertified teachers and uncertified superintendent, and they can't teach kids because these people don't know how they're teaching kids. And what he's paying his administrators who work under him, he's paying them as if they work in big companies and are making a lot of money. So, yeah, he screwed around. He effed around and found out because he messed with the white kids and the white parents, and now everybody's talking about it. So I'm actually offended. And I will tell you, the only reason, Roland, that we have a appointed board is because, if you'll recall, because you reported on this, we actually had a walking quorum with people on our board. And let me make sure I say their names. Sergio Lira, Elizabeth Santos, Diana Davila, Holly Villaseca, and Ann Sung, who had that walking quorum where they went and they were firing all the black administrators in HISD. TEA found that they were having a walking quorum which violated open meetings, and that is one of the reasons why TEA was able to take over HISD.
Right. And I was about to say that because first of all, for people who don't understand what's happening in Texas, Texas Education Agency, they have control of the district. That's the state. So that's the governor, that's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, two crazy, deranged MAGA individuals. And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a 7-year hold?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Okay, so now
it can be.
Jarvis, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it can be. It's
up to 7 years.
It's only supposed to be, yeah. Because the minimum is 2, but they're going to push this out as far as they can. Right. Simply, as long as they don't have their vital scheme in place, they're going to continue to try to destroy education as long as they can.
Right. So for the folks, so how do you even get to this? Well, folks need to understand what happened in Houston is this here. And this really goes back, folks, to I interned at the Houston Defender in 1990. And I remember reporting on a story in 1990 when there was a battle between blacks and Hispanics over someone who was going to lead the police department. And so what you've had significant battles going back to 1990 of superintendents, of fire chiefs, of police chiefs, of critical positions in Houston. And so what you've had African Americans and Latinos battling in terms of power. The same thing happened in Dallas. And so folk need to understand the setup. So what happened in Houston is what you just heard Jolanda talk about, the quorum. You heard Jolanda talking about this working quorum. And so you had Latinos on the Houston School Board who were trying to consolidate power. And so you had an effort where they literally were trying to get rid of the black superintendent to bring back the former Hispanic superintendent who quit.
No, he was runaway.
So he was runaway, so they got busted.
And they actually did fire her if you're required.
Right.
They illegally fired her.
Right. So they fired the sister.
And we forced him to bring her back.
Right. Fired the sister to bring her back. And so go to my iPad. So this is from 2019. The threat of a state takeover intensifies for the Houston Independent School District. So what you're seeing right now, the roots of this began then. And you had the battle that was going back and forth. And so Latinos in Houston are going to have to accept the reality that This whole thing, they opened the door. With this walking quorum, they opened the door for the state to come in, and that door began to widen. And guess what? Now it's a whole bunch of Latino folks are getting fired. A whole bunch of black folks as well. So people have to understand what's happening in Houston because, as you heard Jarvis say, the governor, Abbott, he's desperate to pass vouchers in the state, which is a scam. Now, y'all know, I'm the founder of School Choice is the Black Choice. But this plan here is a scam just like the one in Tennessee. The one in Tennessee just got defeated, but they're going to come back. What Abbott did in Texas was he literally opposed, supported the candidates the Republicans who voted against his voucher scam. He supported their opponents, and they have systematically taken them out. Now you have a runoff in the Dallas area where you have crazy Katrina Pearson, the shoplifting Trump supporter, who's running for state rep. I know Jarvis, but I'm just saying what it is, Jarvis. You ain't got to sit here. Jarvis like, oh, Lord, did he go there? No. I damn sure did. The shoplifting Katrina Pearson, who's a Trump mouthpiece, she's now in a runoff against one of those Republicans. Abbott hates her because she was trashing him, but now he's backing her because he wants to eliminate every single one of those Republicans who voted against the voucher bill. And guess what? All those rural white folks in Texas, y'all are about to get screwed. Because the voucher scam in Texas serves one purpose. It is to be able to give billions of dollars to middle-class white people in the suburbs who want to remove their kids from public schools, send them to private school. You don't have enough seats in private school, but this effort is to strangle the public schools in Texas, and that is their goal. Same thing in Texas, same thing in Tennessee. And Jarvis, that is what we're seeing. So folk got to understand, you pulled some crap 5-6 years ago. Now you're seeing chickens have come home to roost, and the very folk who were trying to consolidate Latino power, now about to see a whole bunch of Latino janitors and custodians and teachers and support staff get fired because they were trying to screw black people when it came to power.
In addition to all of that, which you're absolutely correct, but I will tell you, in addition to that, rural Texas is going to get screwed because more times than not in rural communities, the school is the largest employer of that particular school of that particular area. So that means you're going to find people are going to lose their jobs anyway. The Republicans, and Greg Abbott knows this, 70% of Texas disapproves of violence. He only did this because Ron DeSantis decided to do vouchers in Florida, and he was trying to keep up with DeSantis so that they could get Trump's approval. Who's going to be his running mate? So that's what this is all about. Because Abbott knows he's going to be gone in a couple of years. He's not going to be the governor, but at the end of the day, he's just trying to use this platform to rally his base to make them think that he's doing good by their kids. When in fact, this civil war that the Republicans got going on, it will destroy them. And I'm all for it. I'm here for it because they're tearing each other apart and they're tearing these schools apart. And I'm so glad, Yolanda pointed that out, I'm so glad that you're now bringing it to the doorsteps of people that normally didn't understand it, they didn't see it. See, the one thing you've got to have in politics is empathy. Because when it starts to happen to you, when this thing starts to come at you, then all of a sudden you go, oh, is that what this was all about? Oh, my God. And so it's kind of funny to see, upper middle class and affluent white people outside chanting, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. And I'm like, wow, that reminds me of something. It all comes back. And so sometimes it's good when these type of things happen because it falls at people's doorsteps that they now have to reckon with the problems that they created to then try to be the solution maker when they're actually just destroying.
Yolanda, final comment. Go ahead.
I'll say this, Roland. So yeah, he screwed around and he messed with the white schools and the white children. But the bottom line is this. I'd like to see the white parents rally when he's closing our schools and firing our principals, right? Because we hadn't seen that, although we are supporting them because we understand a rising tide lifts all boats. But I'll also say that Abbott wants for the vouchers to give $10,000 per kid to basically it's subsidizing rich people and middle-class white folks kids to go to school because they're going to these private schools where the tuition is $27,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. So you give them $10,000, they're only paying $15,000 or whatever. And what black folks and poor folks don't always understand is private school costs more than $10,000. And when you get if vouchers pass, that doesn't pay for your transportation. It doesn't pay for your food. You're not getting the federal dollars. So the people that are going to be stuck is the parents who think they can literally have enough money with these vouchers and go to another school. And insofar as rural areas, it's going to kill them because generally there are not a lot of schools, right? So maybe in an urban city like Houston or Dallas, there may be a bunch of schools or some charter schools or whatever around where I can catch a bus or something and get there. These places in rural areas are 30 and 40 minutes away. So it's going to decimate them. And so I'm actually very, very, very sad to see Abbott try to exact this plan and go around what voters wanted because HISD, I believe, is irreparably harmed right now. And we are literally losing an entire generation of kids. Now, perhaps once HISD is decimated, because that's where it is, if I were a parent of a child who was school age, although I believe I shouldn't have to pay for private school, I'd have gotten extra jobs, worked overtime to put my child in a private school because HISD is not an environment to teach kids in because they don't have certified teachers. And if you're a parent, you know you don't want to send your kids to where teachers are not certified. They have principals, the good principals have left. They are running them out. They have threatened. Mike Miles is he is threatening people. He's a dictator. And principals literally call me and they're afraid. Teachers call me and they tell me what's going on because they are afraid that if they open their mouth, so he's stifling their First Amendment rights, that they will lose their jobs. And so there is not a First Amendment right in HISD for anyone who works there. So HISD is destroyed. I don't know if we can fix it. I don't know if we can fix it, at least now in the near future.
Well, very simple, folks. That is, I totally get what you're saying, Jolanda, in terms of these white parents. But you know what? Whatever wakes them the hell up, cool. Just like in Tennessee, it was a whole bunch of black folks been getting shot. But when them white kids got shot in that school shooting, and then all of a sudden they started coming to the state capitol, that's what woke them up. And so maybe they will now stop fighting the word woke, and maybe those white folks in Houston will now stay woke to what's going on and realize that what black folks have been saying, and what Latinos have better wake up as well in Houston, because, again, all those shenanigans, trying to change the voting lines and trying to change, who qualifies for the ballot, how to apportion district lines by trying to use total population versus registered voters, they need to understand what's going on. So all the games they were playing, they realize what's happening here and how they're getting screwed as well. So it makes a hell of a lot more sense for Latinos in Houston to align with black folks and for concerned white folks to realize that Republicans, they want to completely destroy not just the city of Houston, but Harris County, because they hate the fact that it's blue. No, that's why I said Houston. No, I said Houston and Harris County. They want to destroy it because they hate the fact that they can't control it. That's what's going on. So we'll keep watching what happens there. I'm supposed to be at Yates High School on May 24th to present.
I'm gonna come there
to present my scholarship. They're not following the rules anyway because I was supposed to be kept apprised of this whole process of who was actually applying. So I'm gonna deal with them when it comes to that because.
Well, but the principal is really worried, Roland, about being fired from Yates. So she, for real, the parents are talking to me. The kids are talking to me. He identified her as one of the principals he was trying to get away with, that he's trying to get rid of. So she got things and she is doing a really good job, right? And we got problems in Houston too. We're firing all the black department directors. That's what he's doing. So black people are under attack in Houston. And what's the only thing that's going to make the white progressives and the Hispanics come aboard with us, I think, is for them to lose and them to see how valuably important we are as a part of the coalition. Because without black folks, y'all gonna lose. I'm
glad you made that point because I'm texting Mike Miles right now. with regards to that. So that's going to happen. We'll see if he calls me back like he did when he got the job, because I made it clear he needed to have a conversation with me.
Well, while you at it, ask him why he won't meet me, because I've demanded meeting with him because he wanted to talk to me about a bond. I'm like, no, we're going to talk about you firing all these people and destroying HISD before we talk about a bond. And he's refused to meet, so why don't you talk to him about that?
I'm a firm believer as well that when somebody's trying to ask for a bond, bonds can be defeated. And so,
exactly. And I'm against it.
I got you.
I'm against it.
All right, then. We're glad to have both of y'all on the show. And Representative Johnson, I'm also glad that you had enough common sense not to come on my show, even though Jolanda is wearing her little purple. I don't know what.
But we know I'm an AKA.
I know that, but Jarvis had enough sense not to have none of that crap hanging on his wall. But I do want, Representative Johnson, I do want you to see, though, your fellow state representative out of Georgia, how he represents on here as well. And so, Derek, just in case, he don't know, this is how we roll, Jarvis, on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Of course, where alphas reign supreme.
Yo, D9, y'all, we gonna be there. We good right now. We got to band together to go win this war we having right now against everybody who's coming against us. But
you're right. It's hard to be black.
It's your show, Roland. I'll let you have it, baby. But we good.
Y'all don't let alphas have nothing. We take. All right, I appreciate y'all. Thanks a lot. Going to a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about this with our panel. This war on public education is happening all across the country, especially the South. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support us in what we do. Please join our Brina Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. So your checking money orders the P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 7-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. A lot of y'all have been asking me about the pocket squares that we have available on our website. You see me rocking the Shibori pocket square right here. It's all about looking different. Now look, summertime is coming up. Y'all know, I keep trying to tell fellas, change your look, please. You can't wear athletic shoes every damn wear. So if you're putting on linen suits, if you're putting on some summer suits, have a whole different look. The reason I like this particular pocket square, the Shibori, is because it's sort of like a flower and looks pretty cool here versus the traditional boring silk pocket squares. But also I like being a little different as well. So this is why we have these custom-made feather pocket squares on the website as well. My sister actually designed these after a few years ago. I was in this battle with Steve Harvey at Essence, and I saw this at a St. Jude fundraiser. I saw this feather pocket square, and I said, well, I got some ideas. So I hit her, and she sent me about 30 different ones. And so this completely changes your look. Now, some of you men out there, I had some dudes say, oh, man, I can't wear that. Well, if you ain't got swagger, that's not my problem. But if you're looking for something different to spruce up your look, fellas, ladies, if y'all looking to get your man a good gift, I've run into brothers all across the country with the feather pocket squares saying, see, check mine out. And so it's always good to see them. And so this is what you do. Go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. You can order Shibori pocket squares or the custom-made pocket squares. Now, for the Shiboris, we're out of a lot of the different colors, and I think we're down to about 200 or 300. So you want to get your order in as soon as you can, because here's what happened. I got these several years ago, and the Japanese company signed a deal with another company, and I bought them before they signed that deal, and so I can't get access to any more from the company in Japan that makes them. And so get yours now. So come summertime, when I see y'all at Essence, y'all could be looking fly with the Shibori pocket square or the custom-made pocket square. Again, RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. Go there now.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Racially motivated killings and other hate crimes targeting black folks are rising across the country. Although Congress is focusing on anti-Semitism, no, the numbers show that it's also what we're seeing among African Americans. ABC News reported the FBI data shows that of the more than 8,500 hate crimes reported nationwide between 2020 and 2022, black folks were targeted in 52.3% of the offenses. Between 2021 and 2022, the numbers rose from 2,217 to 3,421, making black folks 4 times more likely to be targeted than the overall U.S. non-Hispanic black population. Hate crimes targeting black folks under the age of 18 rose 10% in 2020, 12% in 2021, and 14.6% 2022. Gloria J. Brown Marshall, professor of law and Africana studies at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, joins us to discuss this here. Glad to have you on the show. First of all, Gloria, a lot of the attention in the past few weeks has been about anti-Semitism on college campuses. Numbers make it perfectly clear it's black folks who should be worried in this country.
And I think those numbers are low because we don't report everything. There are plenty of things that happen to us every day that we do not report because we just want to go to our jobs, go to school, go home, and try to get there safely. And so we ignore a lot. We ignore a lot of police intervention and harassment, as well as harassment by others. And so I think it's very important for us to understand that those numbers can be misconstrued as being lower than they actually are. So what do you propose? What should be done? What should people be saying about this? Because look, a lot of black folks made a whole bunch of hay out of the anti-Asian hate crimes bill, which actually that wasn't what it was. It was really a joke. It created one position for 1 year. So the reason it passed so easily, there was no teeth behind it. What should be happening? Well, for one, we have an Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that was signed into law in 2022.
I'm sorry. You could explain that again for all the black folks in the back who keep saying there has been no anti-black hate crimes law passed.
There has been an Emmett Till anti-lynching law that was passed in 2022, and that is after almost 200 years of trying to have anti-lynching legislation passed in this country and always being blocked by the Senate. And this time it was barely passed because Rand Paul tried to block it. But here's the thing. The prosecutors aren't using it. This is even when it comes to police-involved civilian killings. The prosecutors must bring the charges. The prosecutors must put the evidence before a grand jury, call a grand jury and try to get an indictment. And so you can have all the laws in the world, but if the prosecutors aren't willing to actually prosecute, then it's just words on paper.
So what we should be doing is pressing the U.S. attorneys across the country to utilize this law. So how can that law be applied to these hate crime attacks against African Americans?
Well, for one, when it's the heinous attacks like the mass racial attacks that you saw in Florida, that you saw in Buffalo, New York, and even the attacks that took place at synagogues and other places, then you can apply the anti-lynching law because a lynching could be anything from what happened to George Floyd in 2020 to what happened to Emmett Till, and what we've seen at modern-day lynchings with Ahmaud Arbery. There are certain ways in which killings take place in horrible ways in order to send a message to the community. It's not just the killing itself. It is the horrific way in which the killing takes place. In this country, we've had people burned alive. I'm talking about more than one case of people burned alive. We've had people having their eyes gouged out, having their tongue cut off. All these horrific things, castrations, pieces of body put in store windows. This has happened in this country. And so when we have these mass killings that are race-based, we need to be bringing anti-lynching charges against the people who perpetrate them. As far as the individual hate crimes, we need to know that a hate crime is different from a regular assault because a hate crime has a racial bias to it. That involves intent. Was the person attempting to make this a hate crime when they committed it, or was this an assault? That's what has then made it difficult to bring a hate crime allegation. Also, I think many Black people need to actually start reporting things things that happen. And as I said, that number would probably triple when everyone who's actually being affected by these things begins to bring these cases to the Department of Justice or to the EEOC or to the FBI and other places that are keeping record.
All right, then. Well, hopefully we will see that kind of action take place when it comes to what's happening here with these hate crime stats.
Yes. And I would say this one last thing, Roland. Thank you so much, my alpha brother. But one of the things that really bothers me so much is that sometimes we of African descent just get worn down and tired. And we don't want to do that extra step and say, do I have to report this? Do I have to go through all the trouble? Is anybody going to believe me? We need to know that when you actually take action, it helps you. Don't internalize that because it leads to depression. And we're talking about mental health. We need to talk about our mental health. When you act, it actually helps your mental health. So people who are being affected by this, the action itself will help you and send a message to other generations and to the people perpetrating it that we're not going to stand by and just be oppressed.
All right, then. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to my panel, and I want to start with you, Renita. So I want to first deal with the school issue first, and then come back to this issue right here. And that is, when we talk about this attack that we're actually seeing, people need to understand billionaire Republicans are funding this effort to completely dismantle public education. Now, one reason why, and this is the leading reason, it has nothing to do with education. The targeting of public education is that they're targeting teachers' unions, which are the largest donor to the Democratic Party. So that's one. Two, what they also are trying to do, they are trying to create a right-wing Christian nation. So they want to be able to use these resources to allow folks and to send kids to right-wing schools and using the public funding. This was uncovered in Tennessee. We saw it in North Carolina. So folk need to understand, on the surface, they're trying to say, oh, this is to improve public education. No, you gotta know what's happening behind the scenes and who are the forces trying to do this in North Carolina, in Florida, in Tennessee, in Texas, and other states.
Right. And to your point, you know, Republicans are not creative in the way that they sort of move these strategies. They get these bills and then they run them across the country. And so you mentioned that this happened in Texas, this happened in Florida, Tennessee. It also happened in Georgia, which I'm sure Representative Jackson will talk about this year, where they passed another voucher bill. But I remember my first year serving in the Georgia House of Representatives, the Republican who sat next to me said to me that he fully believed that public education should not even exist, that he felt that parents should be in charge of teaching their kids. And I said, well, what about parents who have to go to work? And not everybody can afford to have a parent stay home. That's a luxury nowadays when one income can cover an entire household. And he said, well, I just think that parents should have done whatever they needed to do in order to make sure, set up their family properly to make sure that one person can stay home and teach the kids. So these are people who are willing to go to such extremes to achieve the goal that you are talking about, which is to, if schools are going to exist, their ultimate goal is to just get rid of schools. But if schools have to exist, they better be schools where kids are being groomed and taught white nationalist Christian values. That is what they want. And they will do everything they can to continue to chip away at that, making that the case.
But let me add to that, Renita, because what that also ties to abortion. What these fundamentalists, white conservative evangelicals desire, Speaker Mike Johnson, the worldview that they have is for every woman to stay at home, birth babies, have dinner ready for their husband. That's also a part of this agenda.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that is what the Republican who was sitting next to me was saying about you should have set up your family in a way that allows for that one person to stay home. He was not talking about, and it might be a toss-up between if it's a man or the woman who stays home. He absolutely meant that women should be at home teaching the kids these white national Christian fundamentalist values. So what we have to remember is, like I said before, Republicans are not creative. These are the same bills they run across the entire country. When we see it happen in one state, you absolutely have to know that it's going to come to another Republican state, and we need to be ready every time to defeat them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Derek, here's something that I think people to understand when we talk about this here as well. I'm going to pull this up, and that is this here. Yesterday, if you go to my iPad, yesterday was the anniversary of when Robert Smalls and some other Black Americans took control of a Confederate ship in Charleston. This is from Jerry Mitchell, who's out of Mississippi. Wearing a straw hat to cover his face, Smalls disguised himself as a Confederate captain. His wife, Hannah, and members of other families joined them. Smalls sailed safely through Confederate territory by using hand signals contained in the captain's code book. And when he and the 17 Black passengers landed in Union territory, they went to slavery to freedom. He became a hero in the North, helped convince Union leaders to permit Black soldiers to fight, and became part of the war effort. But this is why I'm reading this. After the war ended, he returned to his native Beaufort, South Carolina, where he bought his former slaveholder's home and allowed his widow to live there until her death. He served 5 terms in Congress, one of more than a dozen Black Americans to serve during Reconstruction. He also authored legislation that enables South Carolina to have one of the nation's first free and compulsory public school systems and bought a building to use as a school for Black children. This is the statue of Robert Smalls. Now, Derek, the reason that is important is because what people don't understand is that to understand where we are in this country, the reason there is tax-funded education, because you can thank Black people. It was free people of African descent who got elected to state legislatures. And one of the first things they did was put that into the state constitution. Now, after Reconstruction ended, the white folks ran the Black folks out, but they kept that. So the reason you are seeing state-funded education, because that was not the law in America, is because of Black people. And what Renita just talked about, what you have these white conservative Republicans, they despise that because they say, oh, they're being indoctrinated. So that's why the book banning, the attacks on CRT, liberals they're indoctrinating our kids. That's why the Republicans are allowing PragerU to come in with their work into the schools, because they're like, oh, these are liberal dens, because this is all about if you can tear down the public education system, then you now can control the hearts and minds of children for the next several generations.
You know, Roland, I'm glad you highlighted the Reconstruction period, because if you read the Project 2025, as I did, nearly 1,000 pages, they go back to Reconstruction period. They're aiming to destroy everything, all the Black progressive accomplishments since Reconstructive period. To this point, that's the whole Project 2025. The other piece that you're highlighting is this too, Roland. They've been after public education for a very long time because they realize if the electorate is not equipped with the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to call them on their BS. So think about it. All those Trumpers that's following them, it doesn't sound like they're very educated. And I'm not demeaning them. I'm just saying a person that can think for themselves and they understand the value of wisdom and education cannot be led astray. And so Project 2025 starts at Reconstruction period. So this thing about affirmative action that's been around for 50 years, check, they took care of that. DEI, check, they're taking care of that. CRT, and so if folks don't think that they can go back, all those things were precedented law and policies that and norms that have been in place, Roland, if you don't think they can go back, just ask Arizona, because they went back to 1864. And what happened a year before that, 1863, Emancipation Proclamation. So that's the reason why I tell all my constituents, you better wake up, because you keep asking this rhetorical question, how far back they want to go.
Right.
Well, they just demonstrated that they can go back to 160 years.
Well, in fact, in one of the Supreme Court rulings, that's actually what Justice Sam Alito did. He referenced laws dating back to the 1800s. Julian, again, we're talking about what's happening with education. Again, this is one of the most important books that folks should read. I probably have sold more copies of this book than he has, because I've included him in numerous speeches that I've given over the past several years. Go to my iPad, Anthony. James D. Anderson wrote the book called The Education of Blacks in the South, 1860 to 1935. And he details the battle of African Americans when it comes to education, but also creating this point. And so when we talk about what's happening, I need people to understand what the Republicans are trying to do is literally destroy a system that black people put into place because they understood that white racist slaveholders, they said, wait a minute, if these people want to kill us for learning to read and write, there must be some type of power that comes with that learning to read and write. And so one of the first, in this particular book, he talks about how the white abolitionists came to the South shortly after the Emancipation Proclamation. And the white abolitionists were like, oh, we got to get down there to educate these poor black people. They got there and realized 500 schools had already been created by black folks who could barely read and write. They were like, we wasn't waiting on y'all. And so what you're seeing, the attempt to dismantle public education, is the attempt to dismantle one of the most fundamental things that black people helped make possible in this country, because they would want to make sure that our kids could be educated. So when you underfund schools today, and most public schools in America are predominantly black and brown, this is an absolute direct assault on black people.
Well, there's no question at all, Roland. And when that book is a great book. I've read it a couple of times, actually. There is, when I was inaugurated as president of Bennett, my inaugural speech included these words: to teach a slave to read is to excite dissatisfaction to the detriment of the general population. That was a 1831 law that was passed in North Carolina. It went on to say that if a white person taught a black person to read, they could be fined, what today would be thousands of dollars. But if a black person taught a black person to read, they could be flogged up to 40 times. That's how dangerous our intelligence is. So when people tell the stupid trope, if you want to hide something from a black person, put in a book, that's nothing but a bloody lie. Basically, we have always thirsted for education, and they have always tried very hard to keep it from us. So these attacks on public schools, and if we went school district by school district in terms of those schools that are heavily black, you would find that many of them are now on half days for high school students. Some of the main things that we count on for education, civics. Many schools have removed civics education. And then some people think of sports and band and music as frivolous, but they're not frivolous things. They teach people how to be citizens in the world. But we go and look at these school districts, and what we're seeing is cutting, cutting, cutting. The Houston case is very unfortunate, but it's also not especially unusual. This one, because what's his name, Greg Abbott, is missing a brain cell somewhere or another, and he's on the attack. And what he's trying to do is basically out-Trump Trump at some level. But, most people don't publicize it. They just do it quietly.
Right.
What I'd be interested in knowing about Houston is what's the racial composition of the people that they're getting rid of. The other thing that I'd be interested in knowing, do people understand when you fire the custodian and say you can come back, but without benefits, somebody's making money off that. And so we always have to follow the money. Who are these companies that are doing the contracting with the schools? Who owns them, and what are they gaining? And that's a really important question, because when you have predatory capitalism, you have somebody who is always going to gain, especially when Black people lose. So it's pervasive. And the challenge is with the sister you just had on, sister from John Jay, she said people get weary. People get tired. I talked to a young brother that he said he's not voting. He's sick of politics. And when I ran it down to him, I'm like, dude, really? He told me, Roland, that everybody talks about student loan forgiveness, but he didn't go to college. So there's a class bias to all these things that Biden has done, which isn't the case, but he's been listening to the wrong Black nationalists, and he was confident enough to run this nonsense by me until I shut him down. But even still, a young Black man, 20, who just doesn't believe in voting. How can he not believe in voting? Because we're not teaching voting. In civics, you used to teach voting. You used to teach about what your choices were. Now you've got these folks who are basically, they're threatening your book, White people, lays it out. They're threatened, and they're going to do anything they can to go back, not forward with our country.
I do want to get quick comments. Renita, I want to start with you. When we talk about those hate crime numbers, so this is the thing. This is where, for me, I need to hear Congressional Black Caucus members sounding the alarm on Capitol Hill. Yes, you heard a lot of people talk about during COVID, the attacks on Asian Americans. We've heard over the last couple of months, members of Congress push bills, talk about what's happening on college campuses. They say that Jewish students are unsafe. Well, if the FBI data is showing this, I need to see Black caucus members raising a ruckus saying do more to protect Black folks when it comes to hate crimes, Renita.
Absolutely, I agree. And that is the thing that actually makes people vote. Because listen, let's just not pretend here that white people are going home every night teaching civics to their kids and reading lots of books and so well educated on voting. They're not. They are receiving things when they vote from the Republican Party, and we need to be receiving things as well. So I agree with you. That is something, this needs to be uplifted. We need to see some plans around what you're going to do about the brutalization that is going on against Black people in this country and the crimes. Additionally, I would say, as your guest brought up, police data, police brutality, harassment, and killings also need to be added into this data. Because when you look at what has happened to Black folks at the hands of police that we see happen week after week after week, and we know that these are things that they are not doing to white folks, how can you argue anything other than those are hate crimes as well? And so when you think about George Floyd, when you think about the brother who was killed in Alabama, where the police kicked his teeth, beat him up so bad and kicked his teeth in so hard that when they did his autopsy, they found that his teeth actually went down his throat. How is that not a hate crime? This is the stuff that if you want people to vote, you have got to give them something to vote for. People are very simple when it comes to voting. They must see themselves reflected in the agenda, and this is a perfect opportunity to make sure that people are really going to see themselves reflected in an agenda.
Derek?
Again, it's exhausting to say enough is enough. It's very sad where the young man down in Florida serving his country, very young, 20, just recently killed. You got another brother up in Ohio, said that he couldn't breathe 7 times. Again, so enough is enough. I think this is domestic terrorism. It should be classified as such. And we should, I agree with you, Roland, we here in Georgia, the largest Black caucus, should take this matter up right here in Georgia as well.
Julianne?
Roland, I'm very troubled by these statistics, especially given the shift. So I have never seen so many people talk about anti-Blackness as I've seen talk about anti-Semitism. If Jewish people feel threatened, and many of them have been, okay. But Black people have been threatened since we put our feet on this ground. We are threatened almost every GD day. And so when we talk about anti-Semitism, no one condones it, but we're all wondering, gee, what about me? The fact is that we have seen domestic terrorism, and that's what it should be called. In fact, the FBI, what do they call the white supremacist extremists? And we have seen them. And the caucasity, it goes back to the days of lynching and to Dred Scott. Black people have no rights that whites are bound to respect.
Yeah, Juliana, the language I use is much simpler. White domestic terrorists.
Okay.
No, I'm saying, because here's the deal, though. See, my whole deal is I'm not trying to call them extremists. No, I'm calling them, if they were Muslim, they would be called domestic terrorists. They are white domestic terrorists.
All right, I'm going to take your lead on that because you're absolutely right. And we call them stuff, all kind of things, to really speak to the terrorist aspect, and that's what we need to speak to. I'll tell you a funny story. You always have funny stories. Came home one day, these white people standing in my itty-bitty yard. You see, I live in a brownstone downtown, and I'm trying to be nice. You know, I'm getting old, so I'm trying to be kinder, gentler. So I said very nicely, "Hi, my name is Julia Melville. What are you doing in my yard?" Woman tells me, "I'm just looking around." I said, "This is not the museum. You know, this is my private property." Do you know what the woman told me? I told her I was going to call the police. She said, "You have to prove that this is your house." At which point, all that language that you referred to earlier came out, in addition to the fact that, I had a stick, I had my cane, and I said, "I will pulverize you, and it won't take me but 5 minutes." But that's caucasity. You in somebody else's private property. Here's the answer. I'm sorry. We're leaving. That's the answer. Not we haven't done anything. We haven't heard anything. But that we have no rights. They are bound to respect. So we have to fight back. So we absolutely have to fight back.
Folks, hold tight one second. We come back. We're going to talk about the continued fight for justice in Louisiana in the case of Ronald Greene, where these state troopers lied, viciously beat him, and killed him. And unfortunately, justice has not been fully served. Also, we'll talk about what continues to happen. Excuse me one second. In terms of the battle on these college campuses, we'll continue to see what's happening there. Also, the case out of Florida, that airman who was shot and killed, is still reverberating all across the country. We continue to see that happens as well. Plus, wait till I show y'all this pitiful video of these black members of Congress. They call themselves America's Starting Five. Do these black Republicans realize how goofy they sound? But they look even goofier. Wait till I show y'all the video. Yep, I'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Dr. Gerald Horne, a man regarded by many as the most important historian of our time. He provides us a history lesson I'm betting you've never heard before.
Texas enslavers who planned to continue the conflict even after Appomattox, even after the formal surrender of Robert E. Lee.
Dr. Horne talks about his new book, The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas, Slavery, and Jim Crow, and the Roots of U.S. Fascism. You do not want to miss this conversation. Only on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
5 years ago, Louisiana state troopers beat motorist Ronald Greene to death during a traffic stop. They also lied about what happened. He was handcuffed while 6 white troopers tased, punched, and dragged him. Officials told the family he died in a car accident. What really happened to him wasn't revealed until 2021, when the Associated Press released the body cam video of what took place on May 10th, 2019. Yeah, 3 years later, a state grand jury indicted 5 officers on counts ranging from negligent homicide to malfeasance. Charges remain against 2, with the trial scheduled for later this year for senior trooper Corey York for dragging Ronald face down by his ankle. by his ankle shackles, and the federal investigation remains open. His mother, Mona Harton, joins us right now from Orlando. Mona, glad to have you here. And so, what's the latest in this quest for justice?
The latest is with the 5 indictments that we had in December of 22, within months, 5 months, 2 of them, the judge granted the motion on the bill particulars. The motion to quash was granted, and within those 5 indictments of December 22, we're down. The whole year just wiped them out. We're down to 2, as you said, Corey York and Chris Harpin, and no one has been conversing or letting us know. We haven't heard from the feds. We haven't heard from the DOJ. We're left still in the dark.
So, I mean, so obviously when you have federal investigations, they're continuing that. When's the last time you talked to DOJ?
My gosh. The last time they came down here was in July of 2021. We spoke with 2 of the FBI investigators. That was Methvin and Walker. And we had a pretty regular, routine emailing back and forth. And all of a sudden it stopped. And no more since.
Gotcha. And so when are the trials slated to begin?
In September 23rd of this year. That's for Corey York. October is for Chris Harpin.
Okay. So trials start in September. And now, were any of those troopers brought back into the force?
Oh, my gosh. If you have Dakota DeMoss, okay, the first one that said he beat the ever-loving F out of Ronnie, that's Chris Hollingsworth. He died a year later. They say it was an accident. Some folks say that he did it to himself. And he's out the window. Dakota DeMoss was fired on another incident. It had nothing to do with Ronnie. And we're down to none of them. None of them. No one has been dealt with. Absolutely none. Right now they're on paid leave. What a job, huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it is certainly, you know, the thing that we continue to see across this country when it involves law enforcement, how the blue wall protects itself, and hopefully these trials will stay the course, and then come September, there actually will be a trial and doesn't get delayed any further. And
that's the thing. We were told that it was this Friday that we were there in Farmerville. My family, supporters, we were there. It was a pretty good turnout. My message to all was 5 years of absolutely nothing. 5 years of indictments that were just slowly taken away from us. I even felt that day that those 5 indictments were announced, everybody was happy. And I keep looking I rewind that tape, and I see that, look, I mean, well, what is indictments? We don't have anything. And in the course of months, it was taken away. And they said that May 10th, that's 5 years. If the feds don't do anything in 5 years for these cops, you can trash it. It's a wrap. But then you have to look at they told me my son died in a car accident. He did not. They lied. If it wasn't for those videos, I would have buried my son thinking that was the case.
Right.
But the state of Louisiana lied and they covered it up. This falls under the RICO Act. How can you say after 5 years the feds don't press any charges on these cops? You can't do nothing else. You have a scenario. You have the dots all connect from the governor on down on up. It's a network. It's a network of criminal activity in the state of Louisiana. What happened to my son in a cover-up? 5 years of cover-up.
Well, again, we hope that these things stay on the course, that the trial takes place in September. We'll certainly keep watching this. Mona, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Wait till you find out how they are diverting funds for diversity, equity, inclusion. And the starting 5, that's what 5 black Republicans call themselves. What did I show y'all this video? You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, the necessity of believing in things you can't see. It's called faith. It comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's powerful. And it's a big part of being able to live a balanced life.
The valley I experienced being a cancer survivor was one where my footing was completely unstable. I had no idea what to do. And in that instance of not knowing what to do, I had to rely on faith.
That's all next on A Balanced Life, only on Black Star Network.
Farquhar, executive producer of Proud Family. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, what you're seeing is the Twitter feed from Florida A&M University. What you're not going to see on the Florida A&M University Twitter feed are any videos and photos of the $237 million donation that was announced a couple Saturdays ago by Gregory Jerami, the so-called hemp farmer out of Texas. That's because the decision was quietly made to delete all references from social media of this donation, this $237,750,000 donation. That's because you have had a lot of reporting out there that is showing that this is really a fraud, that it's a joke, that this stock that he gave to the university, that he claims a month ago, this stock is really worthless. No one can identify if he actually has a farm. No one can identify what kind of company that he has. He's claimed to have 7,000 contract workers. He's claimed to have farms in multiple states, and none of that can actually be confirmed. Last week, the Florida A&M Foundation held a meeting where it got real contentious. There were a lot of questions that were asked during that meeting with regards to this donation and what it entails. And again, they have been unable to really answer a lot of those questions. On Wednesday, the Florida A&M Board of Trustees, they are going to have a meeting where this is going to be discussed. Now, on that call with the board, with the foundation, there's one sister who was on it who actually has a strong financial background. She raised some really important questions that I think Florida A&M needs to answer. Listen.
I want to first say that I just want to say how excited I think a lot of us were when we saw this first come through. A major donor gift, the institution, to take the institution to a transformational level is amazing. However, I have to say that I came here with an open mind, I'm listening, and as a new member of the board who just started in January, I'm really here to focus on our fiduciary responsibility to be financial stewards and to protect the reputation of the foundation itself. I'm sure there are operational and leadership challenges and concerns that will be addressed by the Board of Trustees next week. So I just want to make sure, folks know that I'm here to really understand the process and the transaction itself, because what is striking to me is what I heard from our OCIO from Disciplina, that they just heard about this for the first time on Sunday evening, as well as what I'm hearing and what my personal experience is that the first time I heard about this was a text message from a friend forwarding me something on Saturday, and the board got no official notice about this until Sunday afternoon. That's very, very problematic with such a major donation. So my concerns are twofold. One is about the overall process and financial controls, how staff is able to do 9-figure level on behalf of the foundation board without the foundation board knowing about it, signing contracts, et cetera. So how did we get this far without knowledge of the transaction or the donor by the OCIO or the board? How are we thinking about contracts and review and execution of those contracts? And how is the board being informed after the fact? Because if the document that I saw, the agreement that I saw, is the final agreement, it's not even fully executed. So if you take note on the signature lines, the donor line is empty. It's not signed. And so those types of things are very concerning. And then moving on to the transaction itself, and those would be concerning if this was cash or if this was a public stock and we could liquidate and we could move it into our investment policy, et cetera. The process itself, I am very concerned about how this took place and how we're here. Now listening to the transaction history, how this donor came to us, the process internally that took place, some things that are very obvious are that we didn't have a formal due diligence process, because I was simply going to ask for the due diligence report and third-party valuation to try to quell a lot of the questions. But what I just heard is that it didn't exist and that we're deferring valuation until later when we're making public announcements. And so the structure of the deal, I think we started hearing it with questions with Disciplina. Are these restricted shares? How is it structured? Who was the issuing company? So we got that answered. How are we vetting the due diligence? Is there a KYC report, et cetera? And so where I'm going to leave this, because I think we can't answer the questions I originally had, is really going to President Robinson. I need to understand from you, when you were aware, how were you involved in this process, and what was the decision-making thoughts around excluding both the board of the foundation, as well as from the vice chair's announcement yesterday, apparently talk your shit, kid! To get to this position to make a public announcement the way we did. I would like to hear from you, your level of involvement, when you knew how decisions were made up to this point.
Yeah, thank you very much. Director Kidd, I have been involved in the process pretty much all the way along. When the money proposed gift, rose above a certain level. 4 seconds. I was informed by Ms. Simmons-Smith, and I have been following it throughout. At the time, it rose to the level of a stock change when the NDA agreement was made. I was committed to honoring that agreement, which indicated that I could not share them. Not only with this board, but also with my board chair as well. She was made aware of this event, of this activity on Saturday, like so many other people were. And so I was compelled by the NDA agreement not to violate that for the potential of losing what we thought was a great opportunity at the time. And that's really, I don't know if we violated any Foundation Board of Directors policy or procedure when it came to this gift receipt. But I do think it's something worth considering how we might handle such gifts in the future.
I want to first say that I just want to say how excited I think a lot of us were when we saw.
All right, so where shall I begin? The comment that you heard from President Larry Robinson right there was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. How in the hell can you, the president of a public university, say, well, I signed a non-disclosure agreement and I didn't want to share with anybody because we might lose the money. You are the president of a public institution. That's one. This is the sister who was jamming them up. Shakisha Kidd. Everything she said was on point. She's like, who was involved in this? And how do you have a document that was not signed by all parties, but your ass put a press release out? You put out this big old story. You let the man give a commencement speech. The folks at ABC News obtained the document. The board chair signed it. They pulled a video that was on their Instagram page of the president signing it. Jerami signed it, but there were two signatures. There was one for the trust representative and one for Jerami. The trust line was empty. So how in the world do you come out publicly and tell the world that you got a $237,750,000 donation that to the layman or the laywoman, you think, yo, somebody actually gave them $237,750,000. No. You come to find out that it was $237,750,000 worth of stock in a company that nobody from Florida A&M checked to see even exists. He valued the 15 million shares at $15.85 in a non-existent company. And you touted this, and it went public, and you celebrated it, and you let him give a commencement speech wearing them sharecropper shoes. And all of a sudden, y'all look like the biggest fools in America. Let me just go ahead and say this, because here's the whole deal. The board can't fire everybody. The board of trustees can only fire the president. The board is going to meet on Wednesday. If it is absolutely true that the board chair of Florida A&M Board of Trustees, if the board chair of Florida A&M Board of Trustees was aware of this gift, and if the board chair signed this document with the Isaac Batterson Family 7th Trust, if that is the case, the board chair needs to be replaced. If the board chair is replaced, President Larry Robinson needs to be fired. And after a new president is named, the new president should fire every single Florida A&M individual who was involved over the last 6 months in any meetings and the vetting of this individual. I'm very well clear in terms of what needs to happen here. Because if you're the president of the university and you do not tell your board, tell your foundation, tell anybody about any of this, that's crazy. The ABC affiliate there, this is what they said. In the document FAMU's Public Records Department provided ABC 27, the following people signed the agreement. Gregory Jerami, Family Foundation representative, who we now know is a joke. Larry Robinson, FAMU president, he needs to go. Shanta Friday Stroud, vice president, university advancement, and executive director of the FAMU Foundation, she needs to be fired, or she needs to resign, because this is what it says. In the agreement copy provided, there is no signature on the line for the Isaac Batterson Family 7th Trust representative. ABC 27 asked FAMU's Public Records Department about this. We're waiting to hear back. It laid out a 10-year donation schedule, all this stuff. Oh, it had all this stuff in it. Y'all, all this we now know is an absolute joke. We know that this is grossly illegitimate. It doesn't exist. I don't want anybody to lose their job. But if you're a public employee at a public university, you are a steward of the public. Your credibility and integrity in leadership is based upon credibility and integrity. And if Dr. Larry Robinson, as well as Shanta Friday Stroud, as well as anybody else who was involved in this, none of those people should be in a leadership position at Florida A&M. Because not only is this embarrassing, it also shows they don't even know how to use Google. It shows they can't even do basic research. It shows that they didn't even have the common sense to hire somebody to vet this guy. I read one story where he called the University of Texas because he's supposedly based in Austin. They laughed at him. You publicly announce a deal that wasn't even fully executed. Do y'all understand that when I moved into this studio space, I did not say a word publicly until I had a fully executed document in my hand, signed by me, the leasing agent, and the company we leased it from? I've never bought a vehicle. When we got the Mobile, I didn't tell anybody what we bought until I had the title in my hand. This is basic as hell. So you literally have two cameras from ABC News, because the then president, Kim Godden, is a Florida A&M graduate. You had two network cameras present, and you happily announced a $237 million donation from a crank. How can anybody at Florida A&M, faculty, staff, student, alumni, state officials, trust anybody in leadership with making right decisions if you could not figure out this dude was a complete fraud? And if Wednesday if the Florida A&M Board of Trustees, when they have their meeting, if the board chair says, I was aware of this through and through, gotta go, gotta go. Gotta go, gotta go. And anybody who was involved in this, they cannot lead. I don't care how great of a person they are. I don't care how nice they might. They can't lead. Because I don't believe anybody in the FAMU Rattler family could have any trust whatsoever, any trust in them. Kristen Harper, she's the chair. She is the founder and CEO of Driven to Succeed, LLC, which provides market research, brand strategy consulting, keynotes, and training on leadership and emotional intelligence for Fortune 500 companies and rising leaders. There is no way, if she was aware of this deal, she could lead a board chair. Because if you provide emotional intelligence for Fortune 500 companies, there clearly was no real intelligence in vetting this crank, Gregory Jerami. Julian, you're the president emerita of Bennett College. And I'm sure over the years, you have had people come to you wanting to give to Bennett. I'm sure you've had people come to you, Julian, promising all sorts of grand and wonderful things. And I'm sure you probably went, okay. Well, please hand me your card, and we look forward to talking with you. And you went, please Google his crazy ass to see if he real or not. Am I lying?
Something like that. I mean, I had actually one of my funny stories. I had a brother approach me. He wanted to give us $230 million, but he claimed it was a couple million. But he also wanted the opportunity to speak at commencement. And he came at me in April. I said, no, dude, that ain't happening. We already have a commencement speaker. Well, if I could just get 5 minutes. No. Hell to the no. In fact, I got in trouble because I wasn't that nice to him. But, and I guess I could have smiled, but it was BS. And then he didn't have what he said he had. But why would I let him speak at my commencement? Speak to my students who are at at a significant milestone. Now, this whole thing, as soon as I heard about it, it reeked. But the worst thing about Roland that breaks my heart is not just that FAMU didn't vet this man, is that they were so eager to get the money that they let good sense go out the window. And this speaks at some level to the desperation in which so many HBCUs exist, needing money desperately. But what FAMU has done, what they've done, it's not harmful to FAMU, it's harmful to HBCUs in general, because it makes them look like a bunch of Mr. Bojangles dancing buffoons. That's what it makes them look like. And others are going to look and say, is this how they do business in HBCU land? So it's really very tragic. And this guy, I mean, I don't know. But President Robinson, I don't know either what he was thinking. I've been in his company. He seems like a nice enough brother, but this is just unacceptable and unreasonable. And his whole development team needs to be gone. Just start over.
Listen, Derek, go to my iPad. She signed this thing. Shanta Friday Stroud is the vice president for University Advancement. She's executive director of the FAMU Foundation, and she's also dean of the business school. First of all, let's be real clear. You can't have 3 major jobs at one time. Let's just start there, okay? Yeah. But that's immaterial, Derek. She signed it. There is no way she could do any, I'm sorry, she might be a nice woman. You are the dean of the Florida A&M University School of Business, considered one of the top or the top business school at an HBCU. You are the vice president for university advancement. You are the executive director of the FAMU Foundation. And you didn't use Google? You didn't say, hold up, a 30-year-old black guy who we ain't never heard of calls us out of the blue to offer he wants to do a donation. And you never uncover the previous donation to Coastal Carolina, $95 million that fell through. And you move forward with an announcement. You sign a document he never signed. There's no representative for the trust, and the money was coming from the trust. I'm sorry, Derek. Nice people sometimes gotta be fired.
Hello.
And they should have resigned by now. Follow your sword and resign. But if they haven't resigned, I'm sorry. They gotta go, Derek.
You know, when you have fiduciary responsibility, Roland, there are processes, there are policies, and there are protocols already in place. And any of us who have ever been in a fiduciary responsibility understand that those 3 Ps that I just outlined, you cannot deviate, especially if you are a historically black college, who, to the point that Dr. Malveaux highlighted, now this shadow could be very well cast upon all HBCUs. It doesn't make it right, but this is what happens when a story at this magnitude and this kind of gravity, to the point that you're making, Roland, it impacts us all. It is not fair. I get it. But when you think about this kind of level of money, now it's one thing, Roland, if Jeff Bezos called up Dr. Larry Robinson and say, hey, I'm Jeff Bezos, we all know.
But hold up, if Jeff Bezos calls you on the phone, say, dog, FaceTime me so I can know it's your ass.
Right. That's exactly right. Because even if it's Jeff Bezos, Roland, we will still take Jeff Bezos through the process and make sure the protocols and all the requirements of the policies are in place.
And guess what? And even if Jeff Bezos was sitting right there and we signed the documents and then I went, hold up, dog, you didn't sign. We ain't announcing a damn thing until I see a fully executed agreement. And any line that's empty is not a fully executed agreement. And I'm firing the Florida A&M General Counsel. Because Renita, the Florida A&M General Counsel, should have said, hold up. I got the president. I got the FAMU Foundation and Gregory. There's a line missing. There's a line for the representative of the foundation. This is not a fully executed document. We are not going to publicly announce this until all parties have signed the document. I'm sorry. They got to go, Renita.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering is, did he even run it past their counsel? Because, and that's my question, because when he saw that they did not sign, that didn't trigger anything in his mind to say, maybe I need to speak with the university attorneys to ask them, doesn't this seem weird that they didn't sign? I mean, I have my own consulting business that I run, and let me tell you this, when I'm giving a client a contract, an agreement, I actually would let them sign first before I sign, because I really want to make sure that they are locked in. And so the fact that that didn't ring any alarm bells for him is amazing. The other thing that's amazing too is, like we've all talked about, if this trust doesn't even exist, it's not even real, then that lets us know that he had never heard of this trust when they approached him. So why would he not go and try to Google and see if he could get any information about them? As for the other people that were involved, yes, they should have done their due diligence, but I bet you money when the details come out on this, they all are probably going to say, which is probably the truth, that they assumed the presidents would have done, that the president had done his basic research as it relates to this agreement. I bet you that's what they will say, is that they probably could not imagine a situation where the president had not done the research, because that's what anybody would do. If somebody approaches you to say they're going to give you something and you never heard of these people and it's a really large gift that you don't just find walking down the street. Like, it's all just kind of unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And here's the deal.
It's not the president's job to vet the thing. It's a VP of development. Stuff comes to your desk. The president, if the president were aware, should have said to the director of development, are you sure this is real? Let's talk about it. But the director of the development is the one who dropped the ball, not the president.
No, hell no. Hell no. You know why? I listened on that call last week. I forgot the woman who was talking. I'm sorry, I don't have the name right now. But on the call, I can't use the precise words, but she said on the call that some skeptical things came forward. I forgot the precise language, but she mentioned that there was something that came up, and she said President Robinson said move ahead with him giving the commencement address.
That part, okay, you're right.
I was listening to I listened to the call about an hour before I came and did the show. I forgot the precise language. I'm paraphrasing. He made the call. And here's the other deal. FAMU, they've now taken the stuff down from social media. This ain't down.
People got picked.
Hold up, no. This would not, come on, Anthony, this would never go down. This is President Larry Robinson introducing Gregory Jerami at the 2024 May commencement at Florida A&M. And now every single graduate in the 2024 class for the rest of their lives are going to have to deal with the reality that a fraudster was their commencement speaker, and their university did not have enough common sense to properly vet this man and look at his background. And matter of fact, turn audio up.
Grown locally by Patterson and local farmers. His journey showcases resilience, innovation, and service, making history as the youngest African-American industrial hemp producer in Texas and the largest African-American commercial hydroponic warehouse farmer in the state of Texas as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Rattler welcome to our speaker, Mr. Gregory Jerami.
He stood there and he read off all kind of stuff about this dude and about who he was and how he, you know, and I'm sorry. That matter of fact, this is how it started. Come on, guys, audio.
Products in Texas. Mr. Jerami overcame early adversity to become a prominent figure in the industrial hemp industry and a pioneer in producing and selling high-quality hemp seeds. He was born in 1993 with opioid addiction and other health complications. When he was 2.5 years old, he was adopted by his foster mother, whose love and support helped him to overcome his physical challenges. With his determination and guidance from mentors like former Arlington, Texas Mayor Robert Nance Clark Jr. and a Merrill Lynch banker, Mr. Jerami honed his sense of civic duty and financial skills. He transformed a small lawn care business into a prosperous property management venture, then delved into investment consulting, recognizing opportunities in southern farming. In 2021, he formed Patterson Farms, a San Antonio, Texas based hydroponic farming and hemp plastic industry that aims to produce bioplastics and fresh organic products year-round, grown locally by Patterson and local farmers. His journey showcases resilience, innovation, and service, making history as the youngest African-American industrial hemp producer in Texas and the largest African-American commercial hydroponic warehouse farmer in the state of Texas.
Julian, if you're going to stand up there and read all of that stuff about his background, don't you think somebody should have said, is all of this stuff verified? Where did you get it from?
Somebody should have. There should have been somebody in his office, a speechwriter, somebody, the communications person, somebody who would have looked at this. I mean, it seems quite far-fetched and fantastic, and so somebody just as a matter of course. But we could go all the way back to the basics. How come nobody Googled the dude? Just Google it, put his name in there. Because I never heard of I don't think any of us have heard of this foundation or this farm that he has. It's just common sense. I mean, I Google somebody before I have coffee with them. Just because I'm nosy. I want to know what's up. So, I mean, no, it is really a disgrace on FAMU, and it's a great disgrace on HBCUs. And it's very, again, it partially shows how eager we are to get money for our schools, but also shows how stupid, and I use the word stupid advisedly, stupid some folks are not to check stuff out. You got to check it out. It's so embarrassing. I mean, I feel embarrassed for FAMU. And I think about the sister you had on, who's the dean of the business school and the VP of advancement and what else? Or something else.
And executive director of the Florida A&M Foundation.
Well, often the VP of advancement, they often couple those roles, often, but not always. But Sybil Mobley, who was the illustrious dean of that business school, who was an amazing Black woman, I mean, she's turning over. She is doing, you know, she's turning over in her grave. That woman did so much for that university. She was such a strict taskmaster. I cannot imagine anything like this happening under her watch, because she checked everything, down to the details. So it's so embarrassing. And as I said, it's a black mark on FAMU, which I hope they can recover from. But the only way they're going to recover, and Roland, you're right, somebody needs to fall on their sword. But you know, people need their jobs, I guess. But this is one where I screwed up. I'm out of here. That's one of those.
Yeah, I just simply, come on. I mean, they organized a call with media. Y'all, go to the Tallahassee Democratic story. During Monday's call, Jerome explained how his journey of building up his wealth over time started with a landscaping and property management business that he owned before selling it in 2016. He then launched an investment company called Batterson Southeast Capital Group from 2007 to 2020 before shifting to hydroponic farming of plants with Batterson Farms Corporation, which was established in 2021. Y'all, here's what's crazy. In April 2023, Texas-based TV station KAMC reported that Jerome, said to be the youngest African-American hemp producer in Texas, bought 114 acres of land with 7 warehouses with the goal of hiring 600 people and building the largest commercial hydroponic site in West Texas. Jerome said he currently has only a few full-time administrative employees, but about 7,000 indirect and contract employees that he expects to grow to a little bit over 10,000 by the end of the year. He said he has about 2,500 plants per acre, but he declined to share its annual revenue or net worth. Here's, again, this is real basic for me, and I said this last week, Renita, Derek, and Julian. If I'm Florida A&M and somebody trying to give me $237 million in stocks, we're gonna have a meeting at your offices. Mm-hmm. We're gonna fly out to meet with you. Mm-hmm. I need to see your company. I need to see. Oh, that land, he brought a TV crew with him. That land is still available. He never bought it. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm talking about. And in this same article, the Texas Hemp Organization, the largest, I gotta find it in here, I forgot the guy's name, but the guys with the largest, he represents. So if you are the most prominent black hemp producer, and you own all this here, how is it that the group that actually oversees all Texas hemp farmers ain't never heard of you? I'm sorry, y'all. This is, at the end of the day, heads gotta roll. And it can't be one. If the board chair knew, board chair gotta go. And the board gotta fire the president. And whoever they install as a new president, he got to fire at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people. I know that might gut the leadership of Florida A&M. But y'all, this is a massive screw up. Massive. They had already outlined how they gonna spend the money. Oh, $100 million going to athletics, and we got money. Y'all, this thing detail how they gonna spend this. Oh my Lord. The dean of the business school, she talked about, we done had the stocks for a month. The stocks are in this. If anybody came to me right now and said, Roland, I'm gonna give you 1,000 shares in my company and the shares are worth $15.85, I'm gonna go, what company? Where you located? What business do you do? We're gonna sign non-disclosure agreements. You're gonna have to provide me financials. Y'all, this is unbelievable. I'm just gonna end on this note. The board of trustees meets y'all on Wednesday. We're gonna see what they decide. Yeah, this is awful. I'm gonna deal with the UNC Chapel Hill stuff tomorrow, the whole DEI stuff. Hell, I got Julian, Renita, Derek. I'm just I gotta take a break. I just gotta go in and get me some water. Because I spent time this weekend thinking about this here, and I just could not wrap my head. Y'all, I ain't lying. I could not wrap my head around how this even got to an announcement and let the man give a commencement speech. And somebody sent me a note, literally on the phone call, Stroud said on that Zoom last week, doing their research, quote, she found some sketchy stuff, unquote. And the president said, yeah, let's still move forward. We'll let him get a commencement speech.
If I was Larry Johnson, I wouldn't even Google it. I would say, wait a minute, his company's in Texas? Let me call Roland Martin. Because if this company is in Texas, there's one person that knows all of Texas.
And if I don't know, and if I don't know him, I'm gonna call a group of folk who I know in Austin. Y'all ever heard? Do y'all know how many times that's happened before? Somebody has called me, hey Roland, so-and-so say he's a big businessman in Houston. I ain't never heard of him. Let me call some folk. Hey man, ain't nobody heard of this dude in Houston. Nobody.
Right.
Buyer beware. That happens all the time.
You know what, Roland? The only blessing up in here is that the white folks don't pay attention to black folks, so this is not on the front page of the New York.
Oh no.
Because it's the kind of thing.
No, it's made Politico, the New York Times. It's made all of them. And look, I don't care about white folks. I don't care about white media. It's made out front. And it's been an embarrassment to the school. I can't trust you making a decision down the road if you couldn't sniff out this fraud. And this was an easy one to sniff out. This wasn't even hard. He ain't got no real business. Imagine if you got a real company. He didn't even have a real company. Y'all, I can't. All right. Julian, Derek, Renita, I appreciate y'all being, but ooh, Lord, yeah. I got to go. Thank y'all being on the show. Folks, that's it. If y'all, Lord, I know it's 106 HBCUs going, ooh, I'm glad his ass did not call us. Woo, I'm glad he ain't called us. All right, y'all. Support us in what we do. Join the Bring the Funk fan club. Senior check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get your audio copy on Audible. Yes, that's me reading it as well. All right, folks, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Lord have mercy. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?